Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we've got yet another ISS construction mission here. There are actually not that many of them left. We're getting on the end slide here, I think. Well, looking at the list here, there's a few. There's definitely a few left. Quite a few. But this particular flight needs to be the S5 truss and the ESP-3, which the ESP-3 is the same sort of platform as the ESP-2. It's just that it has, like, different components on it, right? I don't think that we're going to simulate the different components. It doesn't really matter for our purposes. So we can just grab the ESP-2 here. Is this the upgraded variant of the shuttle? Yes, it is. Okay, so that is phenomenal. I want to take a look at our deployment mechanism for this. So we'll put this at 90 degrees. Yep, this has got that problematic deployment mechanism. So I'm going to take that off of here. We are going to put on a docking port. This is going to have to be removed with a spacewalk, but it will be a much more reliable deployment mechanism. So that'll be absolutely fine. We'll just deploy this guy like so, and then we'll grab our external stowage platform, and I want this to get attached onto here. Not exactly like this. Can we turn snapping off, please? Thank you. And then I want to rotate it. What direction do we need to rotate it? Like that. Okay. So that would get attached something like this. Now, this strut is going to be removed for the moment. We are going to re-strut that eventually. But for now, we do something along the lines of this. Then, let's see, we've got this grab arm. Yes, that seems fine. I do want to make sure that we have a decent amount of struts here, because we will probably need a couple of them for this particular mission. So we'll bring at least, actually, let's just max this out with struts for right now. Well, we'll leave one slot open in case we want to, like, store a parachute or something there. So that'll be fine for the moment. Okay, so we've got this set up right now, right? And this is going to be stowed on, let's see here. Let's look at the actual configuration here. So this is going to be stowed onto the S1 truss segment, I believe, or actually onto the S3, S4 truss segment. ESP-3 goes on over here. So if we look at the actual ESP-3, we can see that this is that launch configuration here, ESP-3 in the payload bay. Here it is installed. So we can see it's just, like, strapped on here, right? So that's absolutely fine. And it looks like it's strapped on in the nadir configuration. So it would be nadir down this way, so it just goes on the bottom, right? So that's absolutely fine. We can do that. We're also going to be bringing up the S5 truss segment, which we know is not a lot. So how do we want to do this? So this is going to be deployed here. What I'm thinking is we stow this. So what angle does this need to be at to where it wouldn't clip out of the bottom? About here, about 30 degrees is the best we can do. I'm assuming that that's not going to clip from the top. Actually, it is. So we would need to move this over a little bit. And then we'll have to figure out where we want to put that external stowage platform, right? And if we close these doors, I think that still might clip. It does. And it definitely clips on the bottom as well. Okay, so we're going to have to find a different way to stow this. Well, we don't actually have to stow it in this orientation. No, we absolutely don't. We would probably be significantly better off if we were to grab this docking port junior, right? Well, actually, if we were to mount this differently. So that would mean grabbing not the docking port here, but rather the base component attached to the docking port, like so. And instead of mounting it like this in this orientation, we would mount it out over here, except I would like it to be rotated so that the grab arm is basically forward, right? So mounting it like that. Then we can use the move tool to position it to be about here. The rotation is definitely not the way that I want it to be. Let's snap that. Okay, let's not snap that. And we just set the orientation to be approximately here, right? Now, this does not need to be uncentered anymore, so we can move this back to the center position. And then, of course, this can be angled any way we need it to, so we can set this target angle to be like 90 degrees here, and when we're deploying this, this would be extended out. But this is not a lot of give, right? Like, that's not a lot of give at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this component here. We don't have a lot of space here. I'm going to grab this component here, and we're going to move it around to be on this side. I want to snap into place like that. That gives us a lot more leeway in terms of our amount of space here. Okay, so now we can extend that back. And what happens if we fold this in? Okay, we have a lot more room to work with going this way. We can just have it be something like a 7-degree angle. Okay, now we need to figure out how we want to do our S5 truss segment. So, to that end, I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to, this is awkward, but we're going to put this in, how would this have to be rotated? Approximately like this? Okay, I just want to grab an alligator hinge. Let's just give us our alligator hinge like so. I want this to be rotated like this. There we go. And as far as the external, or not the external stowage platform, this is the external stowage platform. But as far as the ESP here goes, all we're going to need is a docking port here, although we might want to put this on an extendable robotic arm. That would probably be for the best here. So we would put this on, say, a 1P4 telescoping hydraulic cylinder, and that would go like so. Then we would put a docking port here, a second docking port docked to that, like so. And then we would put in our struts like before. And we would also need an additional docking port here. So this strut would end up going, not rotated like this, of course, but rotated like this. And I want that to make sure that it's docked to this guy, right? I have no idea what that's connected to. We'll find out here in a moment. So I want to move this out over here and then move it up about like that. Then duplicate this and put it in like that. Make sure that these are insulated. And yep, that's connected to this docking port correctly. Then we, of course, put in this docking port right about here, but we need to get the angling of it correct. There we go. And the positioning isn't exactly where I want it either. Oh, that's at a jaunty angle. Okay, you know what? Let's get rid of that, and let's try a new one at a less jaunty angle. Just checking to see if the rest of this is at a jaunty angle, and it is not, so that is absolutely fine. Okay, so this is all we need for our truss module here. As far as our ESP, this is absolutely fine, and I think that we just put this in like this. We strut them together, and we can deploy these basically however we want. Then we do a strut here, they're strutted together, and then we do a strut over here, and maybe one strut up on top here. So something kind of like that. Maybe an additional strut here. So all of these are connected via 3 struts overall. That should be relatively safe. No real problem there. Checking for clipping. Looks good. This is, of course, not going to be the ESP2. This is going to be the S5/ESP3. Okay. So there we go. We'll save, and let's get this thing lifted. Shouldn't be too difficult to get this lifted up there. The deployment is going to be mildly interesting. We'll see how we end up doing that. Let's see. The claw is going to be in the forward direction, so that should be absolutely fine. The difficult part here, I think, is just going to be having enough room to get it all done. So for now, this'll do. Whoa! These are not connected. Hang on a moment. That shouldn't be the case. We'll revert this back to vehicle assembly. Why would those suddenly not be connected? We need the launch stability enhancers, absolutely. Why are you guys not connected? That has to be a bug, right? So in mirror symmetry, no, not you. I don't want the rocket fuel fuselage. I want the launch stability enhancers. Okay, and this should be actually in radial symmetry? Yes. Just slap them in right there. Those should not have broken. I don't know why they would have. Let's try this again and see if they're connected this time, now that we've replaced them. Fingers crossed, but I think we just had some faulty launch stability enhancers there. Again, that should not have been the case. There's absolutely no reason for those to fail, but whatever. What do we got? Are we okay this time? Hopefully. We're going to be targeting an orbital altitude of 200 kilometers, as usual. Okay, they're just... Oh, I know what the issue here is. I know why this is breaking. It's because we're too physically high. We need to lower this in the VAB. This is a very Kerbal thing, but we just need to do this. They're breaking because they can't take the stress of all of this weight back here because we were trying to have this hover. Okay, this is the way it was supposed to be. I don't know how it got moved up, to be honest. Let's try this one final time. That should fix it. Period, end of story. But that does make sense why they were breaking, so it should be fine. As I was saying, we're going to target a 200-kilometer orbit, as we have been. And let's hope that this is actually working properly now. It should be. That should absolutely fix it. 100%. So we're skipping circularization right now. I'm going to tell it to not skip circularization. And yeah, you can see here. We dropped a little bit, but our launch stability enhancers held. Perfect. So that'll definitely do the trick. We'll set the ISS as our target, and we are going to launch into plane of target. So that'll be in about an hour and a half, but we can engage our autopilot and get our liftoff here. Phenomenal. Sun is going down right now, right? Yeah, so this is nighttime launch. Sounds good. Just got to get into our launch window here, and we've only got a couple minutes to go on that one. Hi, Moon! We are eventually going to be back to you in this series. The plan is definitely to continue through the Artemis missions in the near future. But first we have to finish the ISS. And that's a lot of launches away. Turns out this thing has been under construction for like 40 solid years. Well, maybe not 40. When was the first launch for the ISS? It's been like 30 years, I think. And they're talking about retiring it, of course. I'm just double checking here. The first launch was 1998, November 20th. Okay, so yeah, it's been a while, almost 30 years. Like I said, they're talking about retiring it now. So up we go here. I'm not sure exactly what this angling that we've got going on here is. I guess it's because of the offset thrust. I wasn't paying attention to that initial launch period. I was busily looking at dates, so here we go. 1998. Of course, it's not 1998 anymore by this point. You might ask, what is the date of this launch? But this launch is 2007, is when we are right now. August 8th of 2007. So that's fantastic. Next launch is going to be a little bit more intensive as well. We're going to need to lift the Harmony module and relocate the P6 truss. So that'll all be very, very interesting indeed. So checking in here, we're going to have a manual staging event in about 28 seconds. That looks absolutely fine. No issues whatsoever here as of right now. We've got some decently high apoapsis going on. That is to be expected. And currently our thrust is absolutely fine. Completely nominal is the word. Everything here is nominal. Excellent. We've only got about 6 seconds, 8 seconds? I can't math, apparently. Now we've got 6 seconds until our SRB detachment. So let's get that manually staged here. 3, and now. Off goes the SRBs, and you can see MechJeb immediately making adjustments with the vectors. So we're going to turn this gimbal limit at this point down to 33. It makes that adjustment because our overall vector of our thrust changes when these detach, right? And that's because this thrust is at a 20-degree angle from our center of mass. It's a wacky, wacky design. There's no doubt about it. But we've got plenty of big orange tank mass here, and plenty of big orange tank fuel to boot. We're well up over the apoapsis being in the vacuum at this point, so that's great. At this point, we are primarily working on bringing up our horizontal speed. You can see that we are targeting about 20 degrees above the horizon and getting almost purely horizontal speed based on our thrust vectoring. So that is absolutely great. This is getting almost entirely horizontal. We do have about 1 kilometer per second to go in order to get into orbit, but our apoapsis height is about half of its target height, and that will definitely be increasing very rapidly. So that all looks great. We've got Jeb, Bill, Bob here. It would be a problem if we didn't have an engineer, of course. We have made it to the station without an engineer before, but it's spicy. No doubt about that. Hey, I can see the KSC from here. Hi, KSC. Excellent. So let's check in on how we're doing on our ascending-descending node. We're about 1 degree off. Okay, hopefully that'll continue to drop down. We don't have corrective steering on, so we'll see how close we end up getting. That said, we're not in an optimal time to change that inclination. So there is that. It's not really going to be doing too much. We're going to be hitting the apoapsis very, very shortly here. We are, of course, in space as of now. And there we go, fine-tuning that apoapsis, and there's our circularization burn. Now that's very close to our descending node, so I'm kind of wondering, should we tweak this just a smidge and toss in a bit of inclination change at the same time? That's close enough. 0.1 degrees there. I like it. Very, very small amount there, but it's just good timing, right? So we can just toss it in at the same time. Call that good. Definitely gets us close enough. We are, of course, rotating on over to that position. There we go. And let's warp. Hi, Minmus and Moon, right together in the sky right there. Kind of hard to see Minmus while we're warping, but I assure you, it's right there, about to go behind the Earth, I was going to say, but this is Kerbal. This is not Earth. Right, we still have high thrust. No doubt about that. But that's okay. MechJeb can handle this burn, and that is bringing us to circularization as of about now. This is close enough. We don't really need to continue, MechJeb. This is fine. Okay, so we don't need our ascent guidance anymore. Another thing we don't need is our big orange tank, and it does have almost 1 kilometer per second to fuel left in it, but we do not need this fuel anymore. We can work entirely off of internal fuel at this time, and in fact, we are better off doing so because that allows us to unoffset our thrust. So we're going to head on over here and do just that. Come on over here, Bill. A little higher. There you go. Okay, I want to make sure that we are actually on kill rot here. There we go. That'll make things easier if we're not tumbling. So for now, we're going to remove these struts. That was not the strut I thought it was. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And let's reorient this. That is not the angle that we want. That is a horrible angle, in fact. We're going to just orient that down to 0 degrees, and then we'll just anchor that in place. We're not going to be pivoting this plate anymore, so that seems absolutely fine. We just want to make sure that it holds at 20 degrees while we are launching, and after that, we just want it at 0 degrees. We don't need any complex variable flight geometry here. So this is absolutely fine for the moment. We'll get this last strut in here, even though I don't think it's necessary. We'll let that go, and we'll head on over. Then the question, of course, is how are we looking for a rendezvous here? So let's grab on, and let's board. Okay, how are we looking for a rendezvous here? So if we were to push out from, say, the apoapsis here, This is probably not going to be great. Yeah, we're on exactly the opposite side. So we're going to have to do an orbit or two. Probably about 1 orbit. Yes. This looks quite solid here. 1 kilometer separation, 163.5 meters per second. I like it. So that looks absolutely fine. We're going to orient for that burn, and of course, we are going to have to... We should really thrust limit. I almost forgot to thrust limit. These are way too powerful for these sorts of burns. No doubt about that. 10% thrust is more than sufficient once we get into orbit. So we're going to thrust limit that down to 10%, and let's warp. Phenomenal. So here we are, ready to burn for the station. We've got about 50 seconds until this burn. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, about a 25-second burn. So no problem whatsoever there. We're burning basically prograde here because we're at the apoapsis, but you can see we're burning slightly below towards target. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. We're going to be hopping over into target mode here. There we go. And this burn is just about finished up here. Let's get that last little bit in there. This is probably good enough. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, we'll kill rot, and how are we doing on that? 1.5 kilometers? Okay, it's close enough. So we're going to warp up over here. We're going to be approaching the station from below. And if the station was oriented correctly, that would mean we'd be coming in on the nadir side, which would be kind of ideal, but I don't know that it's stationed correctly, to be honest. Let's hop over into target mode here, but we need to be heading over to relative velocity minus here. Because we're already quite close, right? So we want to just be positioning somewhere around here and do a small corrective burn. Okay. Small corrective burn there, bringing us down to within a kilometer. Actually, about half a kilometer. That looks good. And we can warp a little bit closer here. Once we're within about 8 kilometers, we'll check to do another corrective burn. Okay, we can see that we are a little bit to the top of the target. So about here or so. And we're just pushing that right on down. How's that? 0.0. Okay, let's go to relative velocity minus. We are quite possibly on a collision course now with the station. So that's not necessarily the greatest thing, of course. It does mean I'm going to be a little cautious about when we do this braking burn. I'm going to start it at 2.5 kilometers, slightly earlier than we have been in the past. So we're braking now. Station is loading in. Excellent. Frame rate is now hot garbage, but that's okay. And we have bled off quite a lot of this speed. I'm going to take us down to about 20-ish meters per second. Ish. 20-ish. For now, we're still at 60, and we're about a kilometer out. So it's looking okay for now. 40 meters per second and 900 meters out. So obviously, we could definitely turn off our engine here. And in fact, I'm going to do a small correction. Okay. About there. Cool. And we're going to bring this back down to about 20 meters per second, as I said. I don't know why I said back down. We haven't been at 20 meters per second yet. Okay. Little bit faster on that deceleration burn. Doesn't need to be very fast at all, though. There we go. That'll do. We're about 300 meters out right now, and that's fine. I'm going to let this drift a little bit closer here. Cool. And we can see we're coming in on, like, the 4 side. This is definitely not necessarily oriented the way it's supposed to be. So we're about 100 meters away right now, and I'm going to turn this down to about 5 meters per second. There we go. shaving off about 75% of that remaining speed. And we know we're going to have to go over here with one of our modules and like over here with the other. We'll have to decide exactly where that's going to be attached for that second ESP module, but that's okay for now. So in we come here, and I'm just going to bring us to a halt right about now. We are going to have to maneuver down this direction, and that's absolutely fine. Okay. So down we go to a halt. It is about time to put a cut in here, and that's very convenient because the game runs so much better when we save here, exit the game, and reload with this already here. That brings up the frame rate so much. So I'm very glad about this timing. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.